What's good, YouTube? It's Justice. I used to be Pay, and today I'm back with another video. Make sure you leave a like, make sure you leave a subscribe, do all that. And in this video, this is probably going to be my most controversial video up to this moment. I'm going to talk about why Nicki Minaj's run of dominance from like 2009 to like 2017, 2018, pretty much the entire 2010s decade, is overrated. Now, if you weren't really around back then holy hell, you're young. But basically, Nicki Minaj was the queen bee of that era. There was nothing anyone could do to touch her at that time. She was the #1 female rapper, and it wasn't really close. Like, she just did her thing and pretty much dominated the entire era. And I have held this take before, and I've even talked about it on other platforms, but I really wanted to make a YouTube video just to fully get my thoughts out there on this. But I have been a little hesitant in terms of like finally making the video, just because like I'm not a Nicki Minaj hater. I love her music. I do. And I don't want this video to come off as me like bashing Nicki or hating on Nicki Minaj, because that's not what I'm doing in this video, but that's just how it's going to be perceived because it's the internet. If you don't literally lick somebody's sweaty balls, you're hating on them. So that's just how it works. But I've also been hesitant to make this video because I don't want to make Nicki Minaj mad. You know, I like Nicki Minaj. I don't want it to be like, let's say this video blows up and now Nicki Minaj sees it and hates me and then sends the barbs after me, and that's, you know, that's the whole thing. But I don't want Nicki Minaj to hate me if she sees this video, and I don't want like bridges to burn over this thing. I don't want to blow up one day and then now I can't mess with half the industry because half the industry loves Nicki Minaj. You know what I'm saying? But when I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about those being the reasons as to why I wasn't making this video, I was like, what in the parasocial relationship hell am I talking about? Like, I don't know any of these people. They don't know me. Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter if I burn these hypothetical bridges. Who knows? Maybe this video does 100 views. Like, it doesn't really matter. So I'm just making this video to make this video. And there are going to be 3 types of people that watch this video. One being people who are just kind of in the middle and want to hear what I have to say. They saw it. It was an interesting title and they want to know what I'm really talking about. Then there's going to be the Nicki haters. Probably people who don't really like female rap. Oh, I can't listen to female rap because they rap about their bodies, bro. I can't I can't. Female rappers trash. Their voice is annoying. And they expect me to just kind of dump on Nicki Minaj, call her trash, say she's overrated as a musician. She sucks. She's not that good. You know, she's just popular because she looks good. They expect me to say that. And then there's the Nicki stans, the barbs. The barbs are going to be hate watching this video. They're going to call me all types of names, talk about my mama, talk about the way I look, talk about everything. They're going to do me bad in the comment section. They're going to dox me probably. They're going to get me kicked out of, like, you know what I'm saying? They're going to do whatever they can when they see this video. So those are the 3 types of people I got to kind of address real quick before I get into it. And I promise to all the Nicki fans, I will talk about her the next 2 times I make a video on Nicki. They will be positive just for y'all because I don't hate Nicki Minaj. I really don't. I just think that this is a point that isn't talked about enough. And really quickly, I want to emphasize the title of this video. I said why Nicki Minaj's run of dominance is overrated, not why Nicki Minaj is overrated. I don't think Nicki Minaj is overrated. I do believe that Nicki Minaj is one of the greatest rappers of all time. End of sentence. Not greatest female rapper, one of the greatest greatest rappers of all time. I think Nicki is really up there. Nicki's one of the best ever. And she's definitely one of the best of her era, for sure in that top 5, top 10 range. I think Nicki is one of the greatest rappers of all time. So this isn't me talking about her artistry necessarily. This isn't me saying, oh, this album wasn't really that good. You know, Queen was kind of bad. Like, that's not what I'm doing in this video. I'm talking about her run of dominance in the 2010s and why I think it's overrated. Nicki reigned over the rap game, specifically the female rap game, pretty much uncontested from 2009 to about 2017, 2018. She was breaking records. She's all over the charts. She's got 1 million hit songs, 1 million awards, somehow doesn't have a Grammy, which is just ridiculous. Like, the Grammys, come on now. But she's just doing everything. She's the queen bee. She's the top of the food chain in the rap game, but especially the female rap game. There's no one who could touch her at this time. Like, there was literally no one who could touch her whatsoever. And that's the main aspect of this video. That's what I mean when I say her run of dominance is overrated, because who was her competition? Nicki in the 2010s is the definition of a big fish in a very small pond. Her competition in the 2010s was the ghost of Lil' Kim, way past her prime, Iggy Azalea for a couple years, Dej Loaf for like a flash in the pan, and Young M.A. And also Remy Ma after she got out of jail for like 6 years, and then she kind of went at Nicki as well. Now you can bring up Rhapsody and you can bring up No Name, but they were never going to get that type of mainstream attention. They're not mainstream attractions. When I'm talking about who was Nicki Minaj's competition, I mean, who was Nicki gonna be competing with on the Billboard charts in female rap? Who was Nicki competing with for spots at the award shows? Who was Nicki competing with for an audience? Who was Nicki competing with for these numbers? The answer really is no one. She was pretty much by herself at the top of female rap. Now, mind you, the BET Awards aren't the end all be all of everything in rap. Like, honestly, the BET Awards have majorly lost their luster in the past, like, 5 to 6 years, but just listen to some of these nominees that were going against Nicki Minaj for Rapper of the Year or Female Rapper of the Year, and this is why she won it every single year. 2010, Esther Dean, Lil Kim, Rashida, and Trina. 2011, Symphonique, Diamond, and Lolo Monroe. 2012, Brianna Perry. I genuinely have no idea who that is, like, no disrespect. Diamond and Trina. 2013, Azalea Banks, Eve, Rashida, and Rai Rai. 2014, Angel Hayes, Charlie Baltimore, Eve, Iggy Azalea. 2015, Azalea Banks, Dej Loaf, Iggy Azalea, Tink, Trina. 2016, Dej Loaf, Lil Kim, Missy Elliott, Remy Ma. None of those people were realistically competing with Nicki Minaj in terms of being one of the top dogs in just female rap, let alone rap in general. There was no one else to really contest that throne. You want to say Remy Ma, she did, have the little diss track, and that was cool, but realistically, she was never real competition for Nicki in terms of numbers and popularity and fan base. Like, they could go back and forth, and Remy Ma could even get the better of her on the microphone at times. But in terms of really competing career for career, there's just no comparison. There was nobody to compete with Nicki Minaj from the years of 2009 all the way up until like mid 2017. Now, mind you, Nicki Minaj was at the top of the game, and I think she 100% deserved to be there. All the names I listed, Iggy Azalea, even Azalea Banks, who actually is a fairly good artist, but never going to be like a top mainstream rapper. Azalea Banks, Iggy Azalea, Remy Ma, Young M.A, like all the names I listed, Dej Loaf, Nicki Minaj is 100% better than those women. So I'm not saying that Nicki Minaj wasn't better than these people and she just got propped up. Like, of course she was better than them, but it wasn't even close. Like, the competition wasn't comparable. Like, the biggest threat to Nicki Minaj in terms of female rap was Iggy Azalea. And shout out to Iggy Azalea. She got a couple hits. She got a I'm So Fancy. Like, she got a couple bangers. But she was never going to be competing with Nicki, let alone in hits. But just in terms of pure skill, Iggy Azalea don't got it like that. Let's keep it real. Of course, there's more things that go into making music and being great than just having talent and having, that doesn't always play a factor in terms of numbers and all streams and all that stuff. But just keeping it real, Iggy Azalea don't got the talent to compete with Nicki Minaj. She never has and never probably will. Just being real, just being realistic. Shout out to Iggy, no disrespect, but she's not Nicki Minaj. So that is Nicki's biggest competition in the 2010s. Iggy Azalea. Shout out to her. I'm So Fancy. She got some bangers. But that's not real comp. And Nicki fans in response to this will often say, oh, well, she was competing with men and she was competing with female pop artists like, Beyonce, Rihanna, Taylor Swift. Like, they'll say things like that. And I'll say, yes and no. She was competing with them, but not like head on clashing with these artists, right? When you look at the Drakes, the Kanyes, the Kendricks, the Coles, the Eminems of that era, the 2010s, right? Even Lil Wayne, she had overlap in a lot of those fan bases, but they weren't one for one overlaps, right? Like, when you look at somebody like 21 Savage and Lil Baby's fan base, there's going to be heavy overlap when it comes to those two artists. But Nicki Minaj to Kanye, there's not a lot of overlap. Nicki Minaj to Kendrick, not a lot of overlap. The two main people you can say she has a lot of overlap with is Drake and Wayne because of Young Money, which would 100% be true. But again, there's still a major difference in those fan bases. All Wayne fans, I'll say this, all Nicki fans, this is a general statement, it's not always true, but this is more of like me making a general statement. overall. This doesn't apply to every single Nicki fan and every single Drake fan or whatever, but this is for the most part true. Every single Nicki fan is a Drake fan. Every single Nicki fan is a Wayne fan, but not every single Wayne fan is a Nicki fan, and not every single Drake fan is a Nicki fan, if you get what I'm saying. Now, obviously, that's not always true. There's probably a large subsection of Nicki fans who hate Drake and hate Wayne, whatever. But for the most part, those things are typically kind of true. Nicki, though, does have a very distinct fan base that those two artists typically don't have. Nicki has a very distinct fan base because there's a market for female rap, and there always has been. So there's always going to be people who really want to hear female rap more than anything else. There's a group of people who really just want to hear women rap. They don't really care about the male stuff. They want to hear Nicki Minaj. They want to hear, Lotto. They want to hear all the, what I'm saying? Like, there's a fan base for female rap that exists outside of just male rap in general. So Nicki pretty much had unrivaled access to that fan base for 9 years. And when it comes to her competing with pop stars like Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Rihanna, she did to a certain extent. She did. But again, I don't think it was head-to-head competition. I would say it's kind of similar. Like, for me, I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan. I live in Arizona. I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan, and I'm also a Phoenix Suns fan. I wouldn't say the Suns and Cardinals compete for my fandom. They may compete in terms of, like, some days there's going to be a Suns game on and there's going to be a Cardinals game on, and I got to choose which one to watch. That is true. There is competition in that sense, but for the most part, they're more so complements of each other rather than competitors. I think Beyonce and Nicki are more so complements of each other than competitors, because again, a lot of Beyonce's fans don't really listen, or I won't say they don't really listen to, but they're not looking for what they get from Beyonce for what they get from Nicki Minaj. They're not looking at Nicki Minaj to get the things that they get from Beyonce, which on the other hand is the case for like Beyonce and Rihanna, right? If I'm a Beyonce fan, I'm looking for this, I can get that from Beyonce and I can get that from Rihanna. So those two are competing for my fandom. But when it comes to Nicki Minaj, she brings something different to the occasion. Now, of course, Nicki Minaj can do pop music. She has great pop songs. She has super bass and Starships that went crazy on the charts. So Nicki Minaj can do pop music, and even Beyonce and Rihanna can rap occasionally. But for the most part, they're giving you different things, so you don't have to directly compete for that fandom. It's kind of like when you go to the kitchen and you use a fork versus a spoon. I wouldn't say forks and spoons are really competing when I want to eat cereal. I'm just going to use the spoon because it's a different utensil. So I wouldn't say that Nicki was really competing with Rihanna and Beyonce in terms of like fandom. I would say she complimented them, and she gave fans of Beyonce a different look than what they normally would get, and something, maybe they want to hear some rap, so they'll go listen to Nicki. And Nicki, she does the pop thing, but they really want to hear pop and R&B, so they'll go to Rihanna, you know what I'm saying? So they more so complimented each other, in my opinion, than they did head-on compete. I don't think you have to either be a Beyonce fan or a Nicki fan. Like, that's not really a thing. It's not really a big distinction for a lot of people to be like, oh, well, I'm a Beyonce fan, not, Nicki. We don't listen to Nicki. Like, it's a different lane. It is similar, but I think it's a different lane. And so I think to say that she directly competed with those women would be wrong, at least in my opinion. It's kind of like saying right now that Drake and The Weeknd compete. They do to a certain extent, but not necessarily. Like, they more so, again, complement each other. Drake can do sing and stuff, and The Weeknd is on rap songs all the time. But for the most part, if you're a fan of The Weeknd, you can also be a fan of Drake without having to have that distinction, because they typically give you two different things. They're competing, but they're not head-on clashing like you would see from Drake and Kanye. It's not a head-on collision. They're competing, but it's not like these two are top rivals and they're going at it. Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, Beyonce, Rihanna. Or not Beyonce, Rihanna, Nicki Minaj, Rihanna. Like, they're not head-on clashing at all times for fan base and audience and numbers. There's a little competition there, but for the most part, it's a compliment like Drake and The Weeknd, or Drake and Bad Bunny. Like, there's overlap, but not so much to where you kind of choose one or the other and you just kind of rock with it. No, you can go back and forth because they give different things. And in that era, Nicki Minaj had a grip on the market. There was nobody else in the female mainstream rap industry who really offered a lot to people who wanted to hear female rap. If you turn on the radio, it's Nicki Minaj. There was not a lot of options in terms of female rap. So it's either Nicki Minaj or nothing, which is why Nicki Minaj has such a diehard crazy fan. Well, that's not why. Hold on, let me take that back. That's a reach. It's part of the reason as to why Nicki Minaj has such a diehard, crazy fan base, but also at the same time, she has legions of haters. Nicki Minaj has legions of haters because she had such a control on the market. If you listen to female rap, it was Nicki or nothing. If you turned on the radio and you wanted to hear female rap, it was Nicki or nothing. If you went on MTV or whatever, if you went on YouTube trying to find female, it was Nicki or nothing when it came to the mainstream. So that's why Nicki Minaj kind of became so polarizing, because she just had such a strong grip on the market. And some people will say, oh, well, this just means Nicki was so great that she just ran off her competition. Like you said, no one could compete with her. So they just kind of got ran out, and, you know, the fans didn't want to hear them. They wanted to hear Nicki, which is just not true. Like, no matter how great of an artist you are, you cannot just simply shove out all the other competitors, because there's so many different avenues for people to listen to music. There's so much opportunity for music to be heard that one person in rap cannot just have a grip on the market. That's why when you talk about Drake, you look at his competition and there's Kendrick Lamar, who's one of the greatest rappers of all time. There's Kanye, one of the greatest rappers of all time. There's J. Cole, one of the greatest rappers of all time. There's Future, like there's a whole list of guys. There's Eminem you can compare. There's Lil Wayne even, you know, in the 2010s. Like, there's so many people that were competing with Drake that it didn't matter how great Drake was. No matter what he did, no matter what he did on the charts, he couldn't just simply shove all those other guys out. Like, that just wasn't a thing, because those other guys were that great as well. They were that good as well. And that you can even look back to the 90s. If you look at Pac couldn't just push out Biggie. He couldn't just push out Nas. He couldn't just push out Snoop Dogg just because he was that good. All these all-time great rappers had other great rappers around them that were competing with them. But when you look at Nicki specifically in the era that she dominated, it just doesn't exist. So the narrative that, oh, she was just so great, she pushed everyone else out, it's not true, because Drake couldn't do it. Biggie couldn't do it. Tupac couldn't do it. Nas couldn't do it. Jay-Z couldn't do it. 50 Cent couldn't do it. Eminem couldn't do it. Kendrick couldn't do it, and they're all just as great, if not greater, than Nicki Minaj. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. That argument doesn't make sense, because if the competition was truly great, they wouldn't have been pushed out. It's just not possible. And that's why you look at today, Nicki Minaj couldn't simply just push Cardi B out. You know, Cardi B doesn't drop a whole bunch of music anymore by her choice, but if you look at her album in 2018, it went crazy. She couldn't just simply force Cardi B out like the other women, because Cardi B, hot take, actually makes good music. I know it's a hot, crazy take. I like Cardi B's music. I like Nicki's music as well. I know that's going to start a whole discussion in the comments, but when she finally got some good competition, she couldn't just simply push her out of the industry. She couldn't simply just dominate the charts, dominate the numbers so much that they just kind of dwindled away, because Cardi B is still very much here and very much relevant, even when she's only doing features. So it goes to show that if a great artist, no matter how great they are, truly has great competition, they can't just be so great that they scare them off. It's just not how it works. It's never works like that, and it doesn't work like that now. Nicki Minaj in the 2010s, to make a comparison, is kind of like Zion Williamson if you go watch his high school highlights. Obviously, when you watch those plays, Zion Williamson is a great player. He was a great player in high school. He was the #1 recruit, I believe, for a reason. He was fantastic. But you could clearly see that his competition did not belong on the same floor as him. It was very obvious. Those two things could both be true at the same time. Zion Williamson was fantastic. His competition was horrible and didn't deserve to be on the court with him, and it showed. So again, I'm not saying Nicki's trash. These two things can be true at the same time. Nicki is an all-time great rapper, but her run is overrated because there was no one else. And it was like this for Nicki Minaj pretty much all the way up until Bodak Yellow or Invasion of Privacy, really. There was no one else. And that kind of birthed this new era of all these new girls that are coming up now. You got Doja Cat, you got Meg Thee Stallion, Coi Leray, Glorilla, Ice Spice, Lotto. Like, there's a whole bunch of women that blown up, the City Girls, that have pretty much blown up after Bodak Yellow and kind of started this new era where there's a whole bunch of female rappers in the mainstream that are competing. Flo Millie's another one. Like, there's a whole bunch nowadays. But in that time period, up until Bodak Yellow, it's just Nicki. Now, mind you, Nicki Minaj is still the top dog of this era. Like, don't get it twisted. She's still the top dog. She's still the best. And even if she started her career now instead of in 2010, I still believe she would end up as the top female rapper, as one of the greatest of all time in general. I think she still would have, because she's that great. But I'm just saying that competition wasn't really there. So don't get it twisted like I'm saying all these new girls are better than Nicki, because they're not. I'm not going that far. I haven't lost my mind that much, but I'm just saying you can clearly see the difference in the level of competition. But even now, even if you're a Nicki fan, even if you're a Barb, the biggest stan in the world, you have to acknowledge that this new competition is real competition, because there's a major split in Cardi B fans and Nicki fans. Nicki does have the bigger fan base, but Cardi B's still up there. So you can see even now that this competition that exists nowadays is actually having an effect on the hip hop world and having an effect on everyone's career. So you can say Cardi B's trash, Meg's trash. You can't deny that they have massive fan bases that do compete with Nicki. Meg not so much, but Cardi B is really the main example that she's one of the biggest rappers in the game as well, up there with everyone else. And she competes with Nicki Minaj, and there's a major split. There's Cardi fans and there's Nicki fans. And they go back and forth and on Twitter all the time. They literally were comparing their kids one day, but you see what I'm saying? So even if you want to say all these new gen female rappers are trash and they're below Nicki, you can't deny the fact that they are competition because of how large their fan bases are and how much their music sells. Like, you can't deny that they actually have something to offer, something to bring to the table, even if you think they're all trash and they're all worse than Nicki. And I even think that there are some girls that if you drop them back in that time in 2009, that they would have been able to come out on top as the #1 female rapper of that era. Now, they wouldn't have done what Nicki was doing. Again, I haven't lost my mind that much. They wouldn't have been Nicki Minaj, but they still would have came out as one of the best of that era. They still would have been one of the top dogs, if you get what I'm saying. I think Doja Cat, if you drop her back at that time, would have went #1. She would have been, not went #1. She would have been the #1 female rapper at that time. I think Meg Thee Stallion would have been the #1 female rapper at that time. And I think Cardi B would have been the #1 female rapper at that time. Now, again, they wouldn't have did what Nicki did. I'm not crazy. They wouldn't have did what Nicki did. But I'm just saying there was such a vastness, there was such a void in mainstream female rap that I think that a lot of people could have came in and did really great in that spot. They wouldn't have did what Nicki did. Again, for the Barbs in the back who have one earphone in and weren't listening, they wouldn't have did what Nicki did, but they would have been very successful as well. And now, mind you, of course, this entire generation, this new gen of all these female rappers probably don't exist without Nicki Minaj, at least in their current state. They don't exist in the way that they are currently without Nicki Minaj. She's the pioneer. She's the gold standard. She's the top dog. She's the one that's influencing everyone. I don't deny that fact, but I'm just saying, man, her competition was weak. It was. She's one of the GOATs. Period. End of sentence. Not GOAT female rap. No, one of the GOATs. Influenced this entire generation. All these rappers nowadays grew up looking up to Nicki Minaj, Coi Leray, all of them. All of them grew up looking up to Nicki Minaj. So I'm giving her her flowers. She's one of the greatest ever. I'm just saying that run of dominance is great. It's fantastic, but it's a little overrated. And again, remember, this is simply my opinion. It still is a great run. Don't get me wrong. But when your biggest competition is Iggy Azalea, you know, when Nicki Minaj's biggest long-standing competition at that time was Iggy Azalea. She was the one that had the longest run against her. Young M.A was kind of a flash in the pan. Dej Loaf was kind of a flash in the pan, mainstream-wise, not in terms of like their career, but mainstream-wise, they were flashes in the pan. Remy Ma just got out of jail. You know, her longest mainstream competitor was Iggy Azalea. Again, Nicki's great, but come on, bruh. But that's going to be the end of the video. If you made it this far, I greatly appreciate it. Leave a like, leave a subscribe. If you think I'm right, let me know down below in the comments. If you think I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. I already know the Barbs are going to be, you know, calling me ugly, saying my mom don't love me. They're probably going to sign me up for the military. They're going to steal my identity. I'm going to be, you know, shipped off to Liberia. So I don't know what they're going to do to me. They're going to try to do something crazy to me. But again, it's just my opinion. And in my heart of heart, I still like Nicki Minaj. I'm still a fan of her. I know people think I hate her. I really don't. I have all of her music saved in my library. Like, I love Nicki Minaj, one of the greatest of all time. End of sentence. I just think her run's a little overrated. But maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Tell me down below in the comments. Call me an idiot. Call me whatever you got to get off your heart, Barbs. I'm cool with it. It's fine. Water under the bridge doesn't mean a lot. Again, this is not me hating on Nicki Minaj. This is just me talking about that portion of her career and why I think it's kind of overrated. But have a great day. Have a blessed day. Be safe. Make sure you leave a like, leave a subscribe. Peace.